Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And welcome back to everybody that's with us online. And interesting things are happening. And I was thinking about this the other day, that, it was right here in this room is where Life of Worship started. And we've talked about that.
2005, September.
And even before that, just the times that we had when we had groups of people together and where we would just gather to pray. And I hope it's okay with everybody that we just took a little bit time to pray earlier. And actually, that was in the, well, Irma and Jackie know, it was kind of in the same type of spirit that we were when we were meeting on Mondays.
Yes.
And I missed not being able to get together on Mondays.
I know.
And I was trying to figure out how we could do that but we got other things going on here at the house on Mondays.
It'll fall back in place.
So I want to encourage everybody just to continue to pray and to gather and to pray for the things that we need to here at Life of Worship. And, we do need a new facility. We need a place that we can gather where we can set up all of our worship equipment and be able to, just be able to do all the different things that we do. So I think that's really important. But in the meantime, we have a gathering here, which is good. But I also not only we had times that we just prayed in this house, and there was such an anointing that would fall on this place. Why? Because everybody came in one accord.
That's right.
We all came because we wanted to be in the presence of Yah. I hope that's the same motivation that we have right now. It's not because we're coming out of obligation, or it's because it's time to gather, so I'm going to gather. No, I want us to come together because we want to be in the presence of Yah.
Yes.
We want to taste Him. We want to sense Him, feel Him, smell Him, hear Him. We don't want to just talk about Him as if He's not in the room, as that one song goes. We want His full manifest presence in our lives. And we want to carry that aroma when we leave this place. And when we walk out of here, that there's something that's happened. There's something that's been transformational, that's been part of our lives. And I want to say this: if we don't walk out of here transformed, if we're not encouraged, inspired, renewed in one way or another, then is it my fault? Is it Pastor Sandy's fault?
No.
Is it because something was wrong with something going on in the room?
No, it's our fault.
Or and I'm not trying to say, is there blame to be passed around, other than saying, do we need to take another look at what's happening within us? There's so many different things that want to invade the space that's been reserved for the Spirit of Yah
He comes
in
where
our
He's
lives.
wanted.
And how in the world can we survive, especially in these days right now, when we're not allowing that place, that special place that's reserved for Him, to be filled with Him?
Yes.
And I don't want to say this just simply out of just simply words or rhetoric or anything like that. I'm saying this as I care, but I want more than just
Surface.
I want us to go deep as a congregation.
Yes.
I want us to break through barriers that we haven't in a while. I want to break through barriers that we've had in the past, but I want to go beyond places where we've been in the past. And I remember
Every cell.
even in the facility that we were just in, how Jonathan and Killian and Michael remember where there was such a move of the Spirit of Yah during a period of probably about 6 weeks, I think, meeting down there multiple times in the course of the week, gathering, praying, worshiping. It was just really a powerful move of Yah, and it was not, quote unquote, emotionalism or anything. It was just like, it was a tangible presence of Yah that was so that made us hunger and thirst for more, and we couldn't wait to get back together. Y'all remember those times?
I'd say it was one of those things where unless you were there and a part of it, it's really kind of hard to.
Explain
Yeah,
sometimes,
it's-
yes.
Okay, so like we're not like hundreds and thousands, but I know the feeling like when I was first invited and I would see John, like, you've always been taller than me too. Now that I'm thinking about this, but to get off the road trip, but you know, I remember like I knew who my friend that was inviting me was about like a year prior to him all of a sudden inviting me to a place, and this started explaining to me a lot of his changes and his conversations to me at the high school. And oh my goodness, it has been a while. When I said we're in high school,
Let's talk
wow.
about Ryan.
Yeah, well, I was trying to respect anonymity, but you know the thing
You
is,
should come here.
yeah, but you know, I don't know. I remember it was like at some point, like I was convinced, like something real was happening, and I remember it felt like there were hundreds of us there in our little prayer circles of like maybe 5 prayer circles of like maybe 3 people in each. You know, sometimes 4 people in each, but like there wasn't that many. Maybe like 3 or 4 parents, you know, and just all, at all time, like there was something always going on around. But like to me, when I know for me personally, it felt like it was like this huge mega gathering of like great magnitudes, like when the worship. Like it's weird. Like,
No, I understand what you're saying,
like,
and what you're saying
when
is
you're
that
in the spirit, you're in the spirit.
Yeah.
because when we're gathered like that, we sense, shall I say,
Something
a
bigger.
population of the angelic,
Yes.
of the unseen. And because why do I say that? Is because there are a host in the unseen realm
Come on.
that are
it was like
gathering
eyes
with
weren't
us
seeing what was
to
really going on.
give voice and to amplify the things that we're praying and the things and our worship. And that's why when we come to worship, we got to understand that we're not here and those that are online as well. There is an amplification of our voices that goes beyond the natural. And that's why did I go through that whole
Because the
series
living-
talking
the
about
living waters
how they understood
are coming out.
from the writings of the Dead Sea Scrolls, where it talks about their understanding of how the angelic hosts were welcomed, but they felt like they became part of the choir, this angelic choir that magnified the Father, and they had an understanding and a very strong sense of that. And their lifestyle throughout the week was not to be any different than what they were when they gathered on Shabbat, so that it was that they carried that presence with them all week, so that there was a presence of the Most High, the accompaniment
Yes.
of the hosts, these heavenly hosts, with them in the course of the week. There was nothing that would cause those heavenly hosts to dissipate or disappear or to be removed, or the sense of that presence. Not that they were worshiping them or anything, but they had the sense of that heaven and earth had come together.
Yes.
And I think that's really, really kind of a sobering consideration when we in our generation have so accepted so many different things as part of our lifestyles that would be totally unacceptable in the Nazarene, the Yahad communities. It was totally unacceptable among
Yep.
those of the Zadokite priesthood, and it was the priesthood that was supposed to teach the people what proper behavior is like. I mean, tell me. I mean, is four-letter words part of our vocabulary? Do we allow that as part of our vocabulary? Because we get a little upset, so we'll use something that would be unacceptable in the presence of Yah, saying, "Well, excuse my humanity," and then that's an excuse of continuing
Yes.
bad behavior. I mean, I'm just using that as an example of saying, how do we elevate our lives? And because that do we decrease or do we make excuses for the things we do because that's the culture we're in, and so to be more relevant to the people? I mean, I was at a body shop the other day, and they had all sorts of different language that is all sorts of four-lettered words. I could be just like them to be accepted by them, or I can hold a conversation without using words like that.
Mm-hmm.
And why do we think it's okay? Why would we think it's okay?
I don't either, because there's a scripture that says don't
what is that, unwholesome talk or something?
Don't
like
let unwholesome talk come out of your
that.
mouth.
Out of your
And-
mouth.
Yeah,
So
and I mean
unwholesome is
that
cursing.
covers the 4-letter words. It also
Yes.
covers the gossip. It
Yes.
covers the negativity. I mean, how many people talk with a glass half full,
Or you're
That's
telling
good.
of perverse stories.
telling perverse stories and dirty jokes, and or even just a hint of that type of joke, and you know,
Sarcasm.
or sarcasm, and those are all different things where I think it's significant that we recognize the influence of our culture causes us to be entrapped to be entrapped into a level by which we're never able to connect with the divine.
Right. Get out of your
And so
quiet place.
some people say, I
Yes.
just don't experience the presence of God. I don't hear the voice of Yah. And why would that happen? Other than, do we actually purposefully try to elevate out of the culture in order to enter into a heavenly culture? In order, and that, because we're reading through the book of Enoch. And what do I see within the book of Enoch, other than there's quite a division between the elect and the Kedoshim, the holy ones, the priest class, whatever you want to call them, maybe even the angelic class, if you want to say it that way, and the sinners, the heathen, the pagan. There is a strong line of demarcation between the
Yes.
two.
Yes.
One is you can't tell, and one of the things that we read even this last week is how the kings and the generals and the leaders of this world all come before the throne of the second Adam, which is the Ancient of Days, and that's how Enoch calls him, and they come into the presence like, oh my goodness, and they fall on their knees and they're praying and they're worshiping and they're crying out for mercy.
They're letting it go.
And they think that now, because they have a semblance of what they should have been doing, that now they should get a pass and be preserved, and yet the Most High causes them to be gathered and to be placed into the place of judgment, because they think that they can just change their look or their behavior, or they can put on a mask,
Come on.
they can they can tidy themselves up and gather together for Shabbat service, and that's going to be okay because they look okay among the brethren. But in reality, the one who judges from the throne knows the deceitfulness of our.
He knows
It's
you.
getting hot and I had the opportunity. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The deceitfulness of our own hearts. The Father knows the deceitfulness of our heart. Our hearts will deceive ourselves to make us think that we're okay.
Yes.
But you know what happened when we were gathered together, when we were praying, and the presence of God was there, and the Spirit of God was pouring out upon us? You know what? We didn't go out looking like the world, like the culture we're living in. There was something that elevated our lives, and that made us even if, well, it made us distinctly different.
Yes.
Our vocabulary changes, our mindset changes, our vision changes, our purpose changed. We lived life differently, and then what happens? The cares of life, the anxieties of all the things that go on, the cares that we carry, the burdens and all those things are overwhelming. The enemy uses that, causes us to get,
Downtrodden.
not purposefully complacent or apathetic to the things of Yah, but the fire is snuffed out and we ultimately become without fire, without a burning, we lose our first love. I don't even know why I even talked about that, but I guess this is the direction we need to go. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 64.
People have forgotten how to pray and meditate.
And that's true. It is true. Isaiah 64, beginning with verse 1.
You're not going to release what's in you if you don't let it go in worship. 64, what, I'm sorry.
64, beginning with verse 1. We're going to go through 1 through 6. And it says here, "Oh, that thou wouldst rend the heavens and come down, that the mountain might quake at thy presence. As fire kindles the brushwood, as fire causes water to boil, to make thy name known to thine adversaries, that the nations may tremble at thy presence. When thou didst awesome things, which we did not expect, thou didst come down. The mountains quaked at thy presence. For from of old they have not heard, nor perceived by ear, neither has the eye seen an El besides thee, who acts in behalf of the one who waits for him. Thou dost meet him," pardon the other language, "that you do meet him who rejoices in doing righteousness, who remembers thee in thy way." Now, let me just say that. What's it say? You do meet with him who rejoices in doing righteousness. Okay, there's something that kind of emphasizing what I was just talking about. Who remembers thee in thy ways. Behold, thou wast angry, for we sinned. We continued in them a long time. And shall we be saved? I mean, Isaiah's asking the question. Walking around,
What verse do you want to read?
that was verse 5 now. We continued in them a long time, and shall we be saved? Verse 6. For all of us have become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a filthy garment. And all of us wither like a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, take us away. Now, some versions in verse 6 say that all of our righteous deeds are as filthy rags. Does anybody's version say that? Filthy rags?
Like a filthy garment.
A filthy garment? Okay.
Minstrel rags is what mine says.
Minstrel rags? Yeah. It's pretty strong language, right? And I wanted to dig into this a little bit because there's a lot of different connections, but this whole idea, one of the things that I'm thinking about when Isaiah is giving us this prayer, it's a prayer. Oh, Father, rend the heavens and come down. Open up the heavens and come down. Don't hold back any longer. And then he gives this illusion that the mountains might quake at thy presence.
Oh.
As fire kindles the brushwood, and as fire causes water to boil, to make thy name known to thine adversaries. Now think about this. What is the quaking of the mountains? I think about when Yah came down on Mount Sinai. What happened? There's one of my favorite chapters, Exodus chapter 19, when the mountain shook.
Yes.
When
Fire.
Yah came down,
Yes.
the heavens were
Lightning.
open. The very manifest presence
Yes.
of Yah came out of heaven and rested upon a physical mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It made the people shake in their boots or their sandals.
They were
Or
scared.
they understood his awesome presence. It was awesome and it terrified them, right? And so, but the whole element of this prayer is saying, "Yo, I want you to come down, but wait a minute. How in the world do we not deserve your anger when we've been carrying about an unrighteous lifestyle?" All of these little hints of unrighteousness, this gathering and this finding ourselves the same as the culture that we're living in, because the culture, I'm telling you, that we're living in is broken,
Yeah, it is.
and yet we somehow or another think that's all right to display the same characteristics of a broken culture.
No.
Do we feel like that is because, does Yah's standards ever slip? It says, for all of us became like one who is unclean. And so that word unclean, by the way, is from Strong's 2931, if you're following along. Unclean. Everybody knows what unclean is, right? Tameh. Remember that Hebrew word, tameh? It means unclean or impure, ethically and religiously, ritually. And so the whole idea of being tameh is that, for example, if one is unclean because he's touched something that's been dead, a dead body, then one is not able without going through a cleansing process to go in and participate in temple activities. Right? Like a priest.
Yes.
If he touches a dead body, he cannot minister before the people. And when we live in a world that is full of dead things and
Yep.
dying things, what does it make us? It makes
Yep.
us unclean. It makes us unceremonially clean. But let me tell you this. Let me ask you about this. It says, one of the things it says, unclean or impure, ethically and religiously. Now,
Would that be borderline false witnessing? At that
So,
point, pressing that point almost?
it's a very good point. You got a
I
great.
wonder if it's
You're
borderline
reading my
that.
notes.
No,
Okay, no, but one of the things that I wanted to bring out is the very fact that it says religiously. Do we carry about us an air of religion? The point is that do we want to carry this? It's almost like an air of godliness. An air as if everything's okay because we keep the feasts, because we keep Shabbat, because we eat clean, because name it on the list, we're wearing our tzitzits, and yet a religious air that makes us no different than one who's touched a dead thing, a dead body,
That's
right?
right.
Or the very fact that eating unclean things that people call food in our culture, like pork or whatever. Pig is not clean; it's unclean. It makes our body impure. It's not. Our body doesn't know what to do about it. But again, what is the difference? We are partaking with the table of our culture, carrying an air of religion, and yet denying the power that saves us, that makes us whole, that can revive us, because we don't want to be revived. The root of the word tameh is related to in Strong's 2930 as foul in a religious sense, as in defiled or infamous, polluted, unclean. The idea is this, from the paleo root of the word. It has to do with unclean. It's the picture graph of tam, where we get tameh, and it's a picture of a basket or a container, and which is the tet, and the mem is a picture of water, and so combined, it's a container of water, and it's a bowl of water that's used to wash the dirt off. It's used to wash the dirt off. So, when one is unclean, it's a picture of dirty water. It looks like something that's being used by which you're going to get clean, but in reality, it's dirty water. Now, think about this. You know how the rabbis, they have a tradition. It's 3:5. Is it 2 Timothy 3:5? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So, think the ceremonial hand washing. It's the ones that the rabbi said, well, your disciples don't wash their hands before they eat. And what was the ceremonial hand washing? They would have a bowl and a pitcher, and they would pour the pitcher over their hands to go into a bowl. The water got reused. The water continually getting more and more foul.
Yep.
The fact that religion has an air of godliness, but there's no connection. So therefore, how does that apply to us in our walk? In our walking, together is if I put on some clean clothes to gather for Shabbat service. It's no different than this ceremonial hand washing that Yeshua rebuked the Pharisees for.
That's it.
The other connection with the word tameh is let's jump into this other word, and this is I think this is where Michael was going, and this is that word for filthy. The word filthy comes from 5708, H5708, and it is the word Ed. Like I have an Uncle Ed. So is that Uncle Filthy? No, but no, by no means. That's really bad. It says his name is Edward. Because Ed is actually related to another word, and that word is, it has a different vowel point on it. It's the same two letters of the ayin and the dalet, and the word is Ed, which is witness. Now, this word, now Ed, in terms of filthy, it's first in its main definition is menstruation, just like as Joy had read earlier in her version, as in terms of a menstrual rag, that type of illusion, or a stained garment that would be used in that type of thing. It seems kind of, forgive me if it seems a little bit uncouth to talk about it, but we're reading the scripture, okay? Because he's drawing this comparison that says, look, I want you to take account of what's going on in our lives, and if we're carrying about ourselves the sense of thinking everything's okay because I made it to Shabbat service, then I'm good. It's all good, right? I get another mark from y'all this week. Or I pause in the middle of the week because something happened and it was a good thing, so I said, oh, thank you, Father. Which is good. I'm not trying to belittle that. But this word, Ed, filthy rag, it talks about a stained garment, but figuratively, it's speaking of the best deeds of guilty people. The best deeds of guilty people.
Sometimes.
One of the things that many that I've heard that have been imprisoned is they don't really see that their deeds that got them there, that they were deserving of the punishment that they were receiving, because they don't feel that they're a bad guy. Even those that are guilty of multiple murders, of horrible crimes, that generally they feel like, well, they're a good person, that they have, they're faithful to their friends and loyal, and therefore they don't necessarily deserve the punishment that they've received. Now, a lot of them come to their senses and said, yeah, I did it, and that's what I needed to do, and I go, do the crime, do the time, that type of thing. But in reality, this connection of Ed, talking about filthy, being a stained garment, it has another connection, and its root is Adah, talking about a soiling, but it's related to this idea of to pass on. Okay, so you think about, all right, I don't mean to be crude or anything like that, but the passing of the menstrual blood is a removal from the body. What's it do? It's a death process. But it's a removal to get that out. So, because if it's kept inside the woman, she'll die. It'll become infected, and it's not a good thing. So it's appropriate to remove it and to remove it out of the body. Another connection to this word, to pass or to take away. So the whole point is when we come to the recognition that something is in our lives that shouldn't be there because it's keeping us from being in the presence of Yah, that we're not sensing His presence and we're not hearing His voice, then the whole purpose of that then is to say something needs to be removed because it's toxic.
Yep.
Maybe it's toxic in my personality. Maybe it's toxic because, people tolerate me because I'm in the congregation, but they rather not be with me. Something's toxic about my relationship, that I can't sense the presence of Yah because He doesn't want to be near me. His face isn't towards me. I'm not face to face with me. There's another connection here in the word ood. Ood is part of the root words of Ed, and it means to return or repeat or to do again, to go round and round, round and round. Well, we know that in the cycle of a woman, it's a round and round thing, right? It's every month it cycles through, and it has an idea that we get into a rut of a lifestyle and we continue to say, well, we made it to Shabbat, but the following 6 days after Shabbat is no different than the prior 6 days. And the very things that keep us out of the presence of Yah, or not sensing His presence, even when we gather, or just like, why is His presence not here in this place? We've done everything right, but then something is like spoiling the congregational gathering, because we're going round and round. And yet another version of Oud that talks about relief, to relieve and a restoration, to restore, so that there's always a hope of coming back around, that which was lost is restored once again.
And it will be.
And so a second definition is to bear witness. Now, why is witness Oud? And this is what kind of Michael is kind of alluding to earlier, is is what we're testifying to. Because what does a witness do? A witness will always declare what he or she knows, time and time again. This is my story, and I'm sticking to it. This is what I know. This is my story. This is my song. That's what you're singing, right? And because that's what a witness does. And interesting as well is the idea of a witness in the Paleo has to do with a picture of the eye. That's the ayin, and then the dalet, and which is a picture of the door, the eye and the door. So as someone that has seen the door, like in the door of a tent, the tent of meeting, and entering in to a place or a time or event that's repeated again and again. Why do we come and we gather? Because again and again we come to witness.
Yes.
We come to witness. We come to witness to one another, but we come to witness the presence of Yah. We come to witness the actions and the presence and the power and of the Most High. So this the whole idea of what were we talking about? Going back to that which is soiling, that which is filthy, can be a witness against us, or it can be a witness for us. Because time and time again, think about an idea of a revolving door and never getting out of the door. All I want to do is think out, in or out, in or out. It's like either we're going to be in or we're going to be out.
Come on.
Why would we think that the Spirit of Yah, speaking to the 7 congregations, more specifically, was it the congregation of Laodicea? Is that Laodicea? I'd rather you not be. I'd rather you hot or cold,
But not lukewarm.
and not lukewarm, right?
Spit you out.
Spit you out. And I think Isaiah, when he says, for all of us have become like one who is unclean, and all of our righteous deeds are like a filthy garment, and all of us wither like a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind take us away.
Yeah.
So we have this admonishment. We have this, what the Father wants to do is he wants the heavens to open up. The fact that Isaiah would pray, rend the heavens, is because he's been inspired by the Ruach saying, pray that the heavens open, and pray to break through,
Yeah.
because I want to meet with you.
Right. See,
I want to meet with you.
Meet. Yes.
Another
What
idea...
else to do? Meet with us. Hello.
Another idea of this idea of a witness, also when you add the hey on the end of that word of Oud, and it's adah, well, what is it? It gives us another word, and it's about adorn or trappings. Now, a lot of people, trappings are not a good thing, but actually trappings are good. Adornments, if you are one who is in uniform and you put a particular badge or medal on you, if you have a particular insignia on your collar or on your sleeve, what does it tell people that you come in contact with you? It says your rank, who you are. It identifies your position, right? When Joseph was given that multicolored cloak from mantle from his father, it showed a specific favoring of his position within the family, right? And so the trappings or the adornment is a reflection of something else that happens within our lives, because we can simply be a witness, one who is just watching the comings and goings, watching the comings and goings. You know, one of the complaints of the youth used to be, and probably still is that how do we know that this is real? Because we're watching all those who call themselves believers. They've been in the faith a lot longer than we ever have, and I don't see them any different than my friends' parents who are not believers.
Kind of like zombies.
I see them coming and going to church every single week, and there's no difference. That I'm watching the
Life is not
revolving
there.
door. I'm watching this lifestyle that's not, and their complaint is then they like using the word. In fact, many unbelievers out there will use the word. Well, it's just their church is full of hypocrites. Well, why do we fuel the evidence? Because obviously there's evidence that they're using by which they make the excuse of hypocrisy as the reason why they will not connect. Right? The idea of the hay, Adah, gives us an idea that there's something not only revelational, but the hay is the breath of Yah. It begins to make the shift in the person's life. So their lifestyle is not full of the religious trappings, which is considered filthy, but in reality, now it's become that which has been breathed upon by the Most High. So the difference is that when I go into a body shop and someone doesn't even know me and they start using language that I don't use, they look at me and they go, oh, sorry, excuse me, pardon my language, pardon my French. You know, they shift their tone. And why would that be?
Because they know something.
Because there's
different
something.
before 'em.
There has to be something
Yes.
that makes what, not what I say, but there needs to be something breathing on me
Who I am.
that comes in to shift the atmosphere. The endowment, the trappings, that which causes us to wear as we enter in and we exit. Right? But let's talk about this other thing about this garment. The garment. The garment is the word beged. Beged.
That's
Beged with a D.
Beged.
With a
Baguette.
D.
Adam begat
Like
somebody.
No,
like the
Beged,
Hobbit, like
B-E-G-E-D.
like Mr. Baggett. No,
Baggins.
Baggins. Okay,
Beged
no,
is-
it's the Beit Gimel Dalet is the three main letters in there. The word means treachery or deceit. So when Isaiah is talking over here, he says, you know, we're unclean, our righteous deeds are like filthy garments. He's literally talking about is that I'm wearing something deceitful, that I'm trying to give an idea of who I am, when in reality, behind this garment, that's not who I am. And this whole so it also kind of gives credence to the idea of the garment of the bride, which we're supposed to be making sure that is without spot or wrinkle, is that it's ready, because if it's not ready, it is a garment of deceit. And the fact is that a lot of times you've ever heard the phrase that the clothes makes the man. right? It's, dress like you want to be, dress for success. You may not be there yet, but you want to carry that by what you wear, right? Because the whole idea is not only that you want to have the appearance when you come across that brings respect, but on the other side is that you feel like you're somebody that you're not. But in reality, what are we doing to ourselves is that we are carrying an air of deceit, of it's a lie. It's a lie to other people and it's a lie to ourselves. I'm not saying that it's wrong to dress up and to I haven't worn a suit. It seems like I've worn a suit in years. But there was a time that I used to wear a suit. I used to wear a suit to church. Why? Because that's what we were supposed to do. Here I'm wearing a polo shirt today, but it's comfortable. The whole idea of what he's talking about here is it's not only just a deceitful garment, but it's a garment that it actually has a whole bunch of stains on it.
Well, it could, yeah.
That Yah sees.
Yes.
We might not even see it because of our own deceit. We've been totally deceived by it. There's a connection of that word, which is beged is by the way, which is the word that's also translated as rags. It is $8.99. It speaks specifically of a garment or clothing, but also treachery and deceit. But it's related to $8.98, and $8.98 is more generally speaking about a covering, as in terms of apparel or a cloth, a raiment, a robe, or something like that, a vesture. But connected to that is gives an air, an idea of being faithless. Because one who is treacherous, one who is deceitful, is offensive to Yah because of one lacks faith. They don't even believe that what they do has ramifications for the eternal. And that the eternal is so far away that in the present it just doesn't matter. An act of deceit of ourselves, we're being lied to, we're being whispered to in our ears. We don't believe it, we're faithless. Therefore, what we do outside of the congregation, what we do and how we act and behave within our own family, where no one's watching but we can let our hair down, then what happens is people they can say, why should I believe? Our children will say this to us. Why should I believe when I don't see you any different than my friends, parents who don't even believe, attend congregation, church, keep Shabbat or whatever. So this really gives us another connection. And if you'll go with me over to to Colossians 2:14, Colossians 2:14. Out of the King James Version, it says, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross. Now, what in the world does that have to do with filthy garments and righteous deeds that are like filthy garments?
Say it again. Sorry.
So what does that have to do? What is this whole idea of the blotting out of these ordinances that are against us, that are contrary to us?
Well, on this one, on this translation, which is now Joy has, it says he wiped away the bill of charges against us.
Okay. My New American Standard says having canceled out the certificate of debt consisting of decrees against us, which was hostile to us.
Colossians 2:14.
So this is also directly related to, now let's go over to Galatians. So go back a couple books. Galatians chapter 3, verse 13 says, Messiah redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree, in order that in Messiah Yeshua, the blessing of Abraham might come to the Gentiles so that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. Now, what in the world? Now, how do those things connect together? Well, I will agree. Galatians oftentimes can be very confusing, and all this stuff going back and forth. Because in my version here it says the word law is capital L, which oftentimes is talking about. It wants to refer to Torah, as in terms of the Mosaic law, and that He redeemed us from the curse of the Torah. But what is the curse of the Torah, shall we say?
It's not.
It's no spirit.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not doing his commandments. We're not following what he says.
Do you remember what happened with Yeshua? When Yeshua stood there, which I believed was in temple courts, and he was there with his disciples, and they brought before him a woman who was caught in the act of adultery. And so he bent down and began to write in the dust there, and as he did that, it was just a matter of time that every one of those religious people who had picked up stones to stone her had dropped their stones and had departed from the place.
They didn't follow the full Torah. If she was caught in the act, they were supposed to have brought both of them.
Okay, it's true. But the whole idea is that now what we have is the picture of the unfaithful bride. And that whole picture of the unfaithful bride goes back to the ordinance. It's related to the golden calf incident, but the whole picture is the idea of that when a man that is he's a jealous husband, thinks that his wife is enacting right. So is acting unfaithful to him, that she is committing adultery. So he brings her to the priest, and what does the priest do? The priest now takes the scroll, the Torah, and scrapes off some of the ink into some water, and mixes it with the dust from the floor of the temple, or the tabernacle, and mixes it together in the water. And she is supposed to drink the bitter waters. And if she is not guilty of adultery, then she is going to be free, and everything's good, and she will continue to bear children, and the husband's jealousy should be satisfied. Now, if she has committed adultery, then it says her thigh will swell, and basically she will rot from the inside. She'll no longer be able to be, her abdomen will swell and all that. And and so what happens is she is no longer able to bear children, and she is marked forever, and she can actually be divorced right then and there because of the unfaithfulness that she has done. The whole idea of the blotting out that we saw over here, the blotting out of the handwriting of ordinances. What are the handwriting of ordinances? The ones that speak about the unfaithful bride. The unfaithful bride. You could even say she is the unfaithful witness. She is the one who is not wearing the right garment. She is the one who's wearing the filthy garments. She has now come into the presence of the Most High, and the Most High says, I see you for who you are. But what did Yeshua do? Yeshua says over here in Galatians that Messiah redeemed us from the curse
That's right.
of the law. I think that word law right there is mistranslated and should have been the ordinances
Yes.
for the unfaithful bride. Having become a curse for us because he substituted himself when we were unfaithful to him. Therefore, we deserve to come under the curse of the law, which means we deserved to die. ultimately, like the one that they brought and they caught in the act of adultery to be stoned to death. That is what our rightful position should be. Our death is what we deserve, but he bore that on us, and he
Yes.
drank the bitter waters,
That's right.
right? And so curses everyone who hangs on a tree, in order that in Messiah Yeshua the blessing of Abraham might come to the Gentiles, so that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. Well, what did we start talking about when we got here today, when we started the message? The Spirit of the living God coming down upon us. The Spirit, rend the heavens, O Yah. And let your Spirit come down. Come down and visit us once again, like you've done before. Come and shake the mountains, this mountain of our life.
Show us
Anything
the
and
glory,
everything
yes.
that has built itself
Show
up
us.
as an edifice, as an alternative religious system, even though we give lip service to you, our edifice needs to be broken, it needs to be shaken, it needs to be shattered, it needs to be brought down. We need so much of this fire to come down, that which is we are clothing ourselves with will no longer be this, will no longer deceive ourselves in the condition that we're in, but that we recognize that there needs to be a shaking and a shifting and a cleansing and a purifying, because the witness that we are representing before the world is just a witness that is no different than anybody else, and yet we find ourselves repeating the same process. We're in the revolving door. We never really want to get out. We never really want to be hot, and we just don't think we should be too cold, because after all, that would be that. Well, that's what an unbeliever is just totally cold from God. And how much more do we need to get out and say, Father, light a fire within me, and let the passion of the Most High once again ignite something within inside of me,
Yes,
that there is
last
something
Lord.
that's living and active, that is not consumed. My time is not so consumed with life that I am able to give a tithe of the day to be in your presence.
Show.
These ideas and this whole idea, when I was just going through when I came across this verse and about the filthy rags, I'm like, what does that really mean? That our righteousness is a filthy rags. In churchianity, what non-Sabbath keepers like to do is like, well, that's why we have the Jesus piece, because he's our righteousness. Well, he is our righteousness, but that's not what that verse is talking
More to
about.
it.
This verse is talking about how we live a lifestyle holding to a form of godliness. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Holding to a form of godliness, but we deny its power. Because we don't even think that the power of Yah can even break us out of the rut that we're in, and that even getting out of the rut is even necessary. And that's the sad thing,
It's necessary.
because the apathy has so overwhelmed us that we feel like our faith is in an okay place and God's okay with it. One of the key things and the takeaways out of the book of Enoch that we're reading through every week and in Walking in Spirit and Truth is that there is such a dichotomy between those who are the elect and the Kedoshim, the holy ones, and the sinners, that there is a gap that is huge. The lines are not blurred, but one is weighty with the presence and the glory of Yah, and the other is absent completely. There's nothing that can fill the gap. There's nothing that the poor man and the rich man could bridge in hell, in paradise. That gap was so big, even though that rich man says, please send Lazarus, they'd take a drop of water to place on my tongue. And the Father said, no, the gap is too large. It's too big. we need to understand that in our walk, in our lifestyle, it's either we are or we're not.
Mhm.
And we're not living.
Cut and dry.
We're living in a time that we can no longer play the games of the rut. We can no longer play in that realm. And I know I'm saying, well, we're preaching to the choir, but am I? Am I preaching to the choir?
Right.
Because what would happen? We take this home and we chew on it, and something gets ignited in us. And we came back together next week, and our worship is elevated to a new
No,
place.
raise it up.
That we all smell the fragrance and the aroma of His presence. It becomes a community or a communal experience that we all say, "Do you smell that?" "Yeah, I do."
And we won't be.
It's the fragrant aroma of honeysuckle or vanilla or
Yes.
whatever that these things are that is a sweet aromatic fragrance that we never forget.
And we won't be torn down
And-
when we're there.
And we catch the fragrance
Yes.
in different places where we
Yes.
go after we leave this place, or when we go and somebody else is saying, what is that? I smell something. What are you wearing today?" "I didn't put anything on." But our garment, but the garment of our King, our garment now is truly a covering that is without spot or wrinkle. Do you know that one of the things about the bride's garment, and one of the things that talks about the dressing of the bride, I take that back. I was going to say, when it talks about without spot or wrinkle, it never talks about an aroma that goes with it.
Hmm.
But in Esther, we get an
I was gonna say
idea.
Esther.
In Esther, we get an aroma
Yep.
as she, because that which is underneath her garment carries the fragrance.
Well, what's that
of the
about
bride.
the smell goes up to the nostrils of Yah?
We do.
So,
It's like-
there's a smell on us in
Yeah.
a way, okay?
So I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to close in prayer and something for everybody to chew on. Father, we just come to you and we just bless you, and we want more. We don't want to play the games because we know you're not in that. You're not delighting in that.
Right.
It doesn't magnify you. In fact, you turn your face. So we take this time, Father, to say, change us, forgive us.
We cry out to you.
We confess our shortcomings.
Yes,
We confess that we are a sinful people. We
Mhm.
confess that it is without the blood of Messiah that we're nothing, but the fact that we would live in a lifestyle that doesn't represent one who belongs to the Messiah is abhorrent to you. Father, help us to distinguish that lifestyle of the elect, of the holy ones, the separated ones, the ones that have been the called out ones,
Forgive us,
so that which we do and say and participate in, and is that we've not separated ourselves from society as if
That's
no
right.
longer to have influence, but rather, Father, that it is that is the fragrance of the aroma that shifts and changes the society that's around us. Father, we just come before you to say we need the work to be done, the work to be completed, that we completely we're beautified before you and ready for our wedding day. We just bless you and honor you in the mighty name of Yeshua. And everyone said?
Amen.